to tell you, friend, when I hear that hook of that song, it's one of those things in light of what's been going on in my own life in the last couple of days. And by the way, I got a lot of notes from people yesterday saying they were praying for me, even people on staff at AFA saying, Kevin, thanks for being transparent. I don't know how to be anything other than that. I am certainly far from perfect, and when I see troubles in this world, it's never from a superior viewpoint that I criticize them. It's always a desire and an understanding of our own frailty, of our own weakness, of the ability that we have to break each other, that I do want to talk about the need for consistency and the need for truth and the need for that truth changing our lives. But I do want to live like I'm on borrowed time. I want to live like there's no tomorrow, and I want to live with abandon for God today. A lot of you have asked, Kevin, what's going on specifically? I'll give you the thumbnail sketch. My oldest son, who's adopted from another country, he's Haitian American, so he's adopted from Haiti. I adopted him 20 years ago. He's 30 years old this summer. Turned 30 in July. And he was 10 when he came, but he was so malnourished, he was about the size of a 6-year-old. You would have thought he was 6 when he came to the U.S. And had incredible challenges, incredible hurdles to get over, not the least of which was how adults in his life, messed things up pretty good in different ways. But there is an irrational fear that sometimes grips his heart. Sometimes it has to do with things he's seen on television or heard about on the radio or other places that he's become made aware of them. And in the past, and because of his special needs, he lives in a group home. And in the past, when he's had some of these irrational fears, the staff will call me and I'll run over and be able to, on some level, pierce the bubble of confusion. Get down to the root fear of what it is and be able to, in that moment, help lay out truth so that he can grasp it, so that everyone can see it, and so that it can be seen for what it is, that this confusion was creating greater fear in his heart because of that. So getting rid of confusion is not something that I talk about doing on the radio. It's something that I live daily, trying with all my heart, trying with all that's inside of me. Because, friends, let me just be very candid here. I don't give a tree leaf about what you think if my child's life or future is in jeopardy. I don't care about a single other thing when my children's lives are not at peace, not at rest, when they don't know confidence in what they are thinking and what they are believing. That weighs on me so much more. So Monday night, they called. There was an issue, some anxiety, some bad behavior, and they called me, and I came over, and instead of being able to pierce the bubble of confusion, break through it, and get to a place where truth could do its work, there was a resistance and a pushback and a not letting go and a refusing to take responsibility but blaming others around him. And then there was a lashing out at Dad and everybody else. Said, I'm done with you. I don't want anything to do with you. When we went to the hospital, which is where the police had to take him after he was picked up by the police, he asked the police and the nurses and the doctors and people that came in and out of his room about 9 different times, I would like you to escort him out of this room. Meaning me. You don't really know, friends, what your makeup is going to be when you are told by someone you've poured your life into that they're done with you, or that they don't want you anymore, or that it makes them sick to see your face, or please escort them from my presence. So I said, Lord, I'll give this to you. And Monday night I went home and said before God, this is totally your deal. I don't have any insight on how to fix it, God. I'm depending upon you. And we went that night. I tried to sleep, tossed and turned a lot. Mind was busy and active and continuing. It's funny how God brings songs back. You know, the God of Angel Armies, the Chris Tomlin anthem that so many of us sing in worship services now. But that just continued to go, which is based on the Psalms, but just continued to rotate through my head. Another one is a remake of an old hymn called Lord, I Need You. And it's based on the old hymn, I Need Thee Every Hour, but it's a longing to just say to God, I can't do this on my own. I need you. I just started pumping those things through my head, and just even when I'm in the car and everything else, just try to feed on that truth. And so I hope that yesterday afternoon, when I got a chance to spend some time, that we would be able to have a discussion. And we did, about an hour and a half. And I came away from there discouraged, because there's still no taking of responsibility. There's still a blaming of everyone around. There's still a lack of allowing truth to do its work. And so the natural anxiety that rises up in my heart as a father is, Lord, what if this is what if this time he doesn't let your truth in? What will you do? And that's the wrong question. It's the wrong question. Pastors can tell me that. I know that. The question is, Lord, will you be faithful to allow truth to penetrate? But as a dad, I yearn for his decision-making and his clarity to be right, because if it is, then he can think right things and make right choices and pursue a right life, as limited a capacity as he's able to understand. So, friends, when I come to this microphone and the Kevin McCullough Show in the evenings and the columns that you read at onenewsnow.com, and when I talk to you about stuff that we're dealing with, this is not coming from a person that is living a theoretical existence. This is coming from a transparently broken and at times seemingly lifeless person that is throwing myself on the altar of God and saying, I can't do anything about this, Lord. You're the only one who can. And trusting that his reminders will sustain me through those moments that I have no other explanation for anything. And friends, I can't tell you how often the Lord does embed the answers to things in the life around us. The question is much more about, are we paying attention to what he's showing us in that moment, at that time? And that's where I came to Psalm 4 today. Verse 4 in Psalm 4 said, tremble, but do not sin. Meditate in your heart and upon your bed. Friend, if you've got stuff that's on your heart, don't let it convince you that you can handle it. Tremble. It's okay. Tremble. Let the trembling happen, but do not sin. Meditate in your heart upon your bed and be still. Last couple of nights it's just been a long season of that for me. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and trust in the Lord. I'm not exactly sure what the sacrifices of righteousness always are, but I think in this case it's to give everything in my control and out of my control over to him and say, God, I can't, but you can. And trusting in him. And then verse 6, many are saying, who will show us any good? Friends, that's what I do every day with you. I come and I tell you these stories and we talk about them, and sometimes we have guests and we expose the light on the deception, and we pull back the masks and we show you the dishonesty behind the facade. Who will show us any good? Is there any good to be seen? And the psalmist at the end of verse 6 puts it in the only way I know how to respond to it. Lift up the light of your countenance upon us, O Lord. When God looks upon you, he offers healing. When he looks upon you, he offers redemption. When he looks upon you, he offers you grace and mercy for the things that you can deal with and for the things that you cannot withstand. All of that being said, these moments of life, and you may be going through one or you may have just finished one, as Ray Pritchard likes to say all the time, you're in one of three places in life. You're in the middle of a trial, you just got out of one, or you're getting ready to start one. But there is no other place to be. Trials are coming, and they seem to come fast and furious these days. But if we ask him to lift up the light and to let his countenance gaze upon us, friends, that's where we will find the goodness that we cannot find anywhere else. Who will show us any good? It's not coming from Washington, D.C. It's not coming from Hollywood. It's not coming from any host of these other places. It's not even coming from AFA. I mean, AFA is full of good people, but we don't have the ability to give the greatest gift of all. It only comes from God. So tremble, do not sin, meditate, be still. Offer the sacrifices, trust. Who will show us any good? You, O Lord, your countenance. You can heal us. You can lift it, you can change it, you can take it. And friends, I know that normally, we have a lot of people that like to dispute the AFA message. They like to look down on us. They like to make fun of us. They think we're a network of rednecks. And there's this element of unsophistication in the simple form of the gospel that is very unattractive to some people that want great intellectual fortitude to be a part of their life at all times. But the truth is, his burden is light, and his ways are easy. Compared to what we are left without him, I will choose him. People ask me all the time, you Calvinist or Arminian? Well, I have to be a Calvinist. Why, Kev? And I'm not saying every jot and tittle of Calvinist doctrine I believe with, but in the general scope of God being fully in charge and us being someone that responds to that versus us being fully in charge and God being somewhat manipulatable by our actions, I have to believe that God's the big God and we're the little man. Because as a little weak, frail man, I need God to be all those things that I cannot be, even in the life of my son. And so when people ask, Kevin, how are you doing? What's the latest? And I was just kind of barraged by it. And about 1:15 this morning, I just said, please, just pray. Pray that God will sustain, pull back the mask of deception, allow clarity to replace confusion, and allow a response to his Holy Spirit to be real. And friends, it's nothing more than what we should be praying for our own lives every day. That's why I do this show. This isn't something that we do just for the fun of it, just for kicks. I have lots of other things I could be doing, actually. I am here for this time, for this purpose, at the invite of the Wildman family and the American Family Radio Network. But I'm really here to do God's work, to let that confusion be obliterated and destroyed, and to shine that light with crystal clarity. 888-589-8840. We talked about a lot of stories in the first couple of segments, and some of you want to weigh in on them, including a university going completely gender neutral, Boston University, and some others. Let's let you weigh in on some of that. Let's start with David calling from Ohio. Hi, David. Welcome. You're on AFR Talk, AFA Today with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Well, thank you. 40 years ago, I lived in a male dorm, and we had women coming in to use our shower stalls and using our restrooms because they didn't want to walk the stairs to go to the floor below. And I'd like to ask people out there, to pray for the students going to colleges this fall, because they're facing challenges and temptations that they've never faced before.
Mm-hmm.
And and if you know a student that's going to church this fall, or if you have a son or daughter, ask them if they're in church, ask them if they're reading their Bibles, because that's the only thing that's going to keep them going down the path that they need to be going on. And so many kids go the wrong way after they go to college, and so pray for these kids. Pray for everyone that you know that's going to college this fall, because they've got so much stuff in front of them, and it is a time when most Christians, or not most Christians, but when a lot of Christians go the wrong way, and we want to prevent that.
Amen. I appreciate that. Thank you, David. Appreciate your thoughts, and appreciate the fact that you're seeing the bigger picture. We need to support those kids that are going away, and hopeful and prayerful that God will do something great in their life. Friends, tonight, coming up on the Kevin McCullough Show, we've got a lot more news to get to. In fact, tonight we're going to take a look at a misunderstanding that the Western media had about two Russian track stars that competed in an athletic event over the weekend, confusing friendship, innocence and friendship, with lesbianism and sickness. We'll talk about that in the Kevin McCullough Show overnight. And then also a little shout-out to Duck Dynasty tonight. You're going to get to hear Phil Robertson give a piece of his testimony exclusively on the Kevin McCullough Show. That's tonight on many of these same stations. Saying, please come back and join us for the Thursday edition of AFA Today. I'm Kevin McCullough. Focal Point with Brian Fisher is next.